Adam, thank you. I am joined by Baroness Meacher, the crossbench peer, whose amendment was passed by 307 votes to 277, and a Conservative MP, Michael Ellis, who's very critical of what's happened in the Lords tonight, with the unelected Lords defying the elected House of Commons. Baroness Meacher, your amendment really is all about further analysis being done. What do you expect to happen now?
Well, I expect further analysis to be done. To be perfectly honest, what we've done today is to say, look, hold on to this regulation. Don't pass it today in this unelected House. Leave it to the government to think again, and also to the House of Commons, the elected chamber, who are going to have an all-day debate on Thursday and a vote on these issues. And we've left the thing open. So now the government will listen to the House of Commons, and the Conservative majority, as I understand it, has disappeared on these issues now that the Conservative backbenchers really understand better, not completely, none of us do, better, the implications of these regulations. So 8 Conservative MPs, as I understand it, have put their name to the motion for Thursday's debate. And, of course, the majority is only 13, so half 13 is 6.5. So, you know.
This is the Frank Field motion that's backed by Conservatives like David Davis, Zach Goldsmith and so on. Exactly. Can I just ask you about this evening? What is the significance of the Labour motion amendment being passed as well?
Well, the Labour amendment requires additional spending on transitional arrangements, so I don't think it's really for me to comment on that. I think it's a very, very powerful message that now goes to the Conservative government, that this House, yes, the unelected House, feels passionately in representing the most vulnerable, the poorest working households in this country. And, of course, the Conservatives have always stood up for working, well, they say they stand up for working people, and yet here they are pulling the rug from under working people, in our view.
Michael Ellis, there you have it. The House of Lords, according to Baroness Meacher, is standing up for working people.
Well, that would be a first. The reality, though, John, is that we cannot have a situation where the unelected House of Peers overrules the democratically elected House of Commons. The House of Lords has resisted that temptation for 100 years. They have had that temptation placed in their path on dozens of occasions over the last century. On tonight's votes, particularly, I might add, on the Labour motion, not the crossbench motion, but particularly on the Labour motion, it is a constitutional outrage. This clearly involves £4.4 billion worth of public spending. Forget for a moment the issue that is at stake in terms of the pinpoint precision of the amendments. The principle that the House of Commons holds sway over financial matters is a crucial one to the functioning of our Constitution. Otherwise, we'll have self-appointed people in the House of Lords, people who have decided that they know better than the democratic elected chamber, attempting to overrule the elected chamber. They've resisted that for 100 years. Tonight, they haven't.
So what we expect now is that the government will bring a motion back to the House of Commons. Do you think the government can get it through in the Commons? Because we know there are all these Conservative backbenchers who are unhappy with what the government's proposing.
Well, John, the point is it's already passed through the House of Commons.
But it's got to come back to the Commons now, hasn't it?
Can I chip in or not?
Yes, of course.
It was passed by the House of Commons when Conservative backbenchers say they just didn't understand what it was all about. And the fact is, as Jacob Rees-Mogg says, Conservative MP, the House of Commons deals with these regulations very badly, actually. They're busy people. They don't have time to go through these things in detail. So they nodded it through.
It's not for the House of Lords to make that judgment. It is an impertinence, if you like, for the House of Lords to say that the House of Commons doesn't know what it's doing.
You may not like it, but it's happened.
Well, of course it's happened, but the point that I'm making, John, is that it is unprecedented, that it is an outrage to the Constitution. This statutory instrument, only 5 have been defeated in the past 100 years, and all 5 of those, none of them involved finance. So we've got a situation where the House of Lords says it knows better than the House of Commons. We hear lines such as the MPs didn't really know what they were doing and things of that sort.
According to a Conservative
MP, Jacob is a friend of mine, but you can find members of Parliament on any party who will say different things. What has happened is, what counts is that the House of Commons has passed this, And now it has been sent to the House of Lords and they have rejected it. They've decided to defy convention, and it should and hopefully will have consequences for the House of Lords.
But what appears to have happened here is that despite the arguments that you're making about the Constitution, the fact is the Lords seem to be reflecting public opinion. We've done polls at Sky News, others have done them, and you heard Tory MPs speak out in the debate in the House of Commons last week.
Well, we have a general election system in this country where a party of government is elected. In this case, that's happened less than 6 months ago. It isn't for the House of Lords to subvert that and to say that our opinion today matters more than the democratically elected members of Parliament.
John McDonnell has just made the point on Sky News that, in fact, it was not in the manifesto, this specific proposal, and both Mr Cameron and Michael Gove, when he was the Chief Whip, denied that this was going to happen.
Well, the Salisbury Convention, which goes back to 1945, is the manifesto.
I'm not sure people care about the Salisbury Convention. They care about how much money's in their pockets in the run-up to Christmas and next April.
Absolutely, and of course they do. But the reality is that the issue today is one of finance. The issue is one of finance, and since the 17th century, the House of Lords has tacitly accepted that they will not attempt to overrule the House of Commons because, as the Americans said at the time of their revolution, no taxation without representation.
Baroness Meacher, what do you say to what you've just heard? You're shaking your head. What's your response to what you've just heard?
The fact is, this is a welfare reform bill regulation.
£4.5 billion.
Maybe the government should have put this major piece of regulation into the budget, in which case this House would have just said it's nothing to do with us. They wanted to sneak it through without proper debate, because statutory instruments don't get the level of debate normally that legislation does. So this is what's happened. So probably the government made a big mistake there. But this House regularly takes back issues to the House of Commons, asking governments to think again on welfare reform issues which involve money and on all sorts of other issues. And governments do think again, and sometimes they accept our recommendations and our amendments, sometimes they toss it back to us. And many, many times, I've done it myself with ministers, if I'm really concerned about governments making a mistake, I'll have meetings with ministers, and a good minister will in fact compromise if they can hear that actually the arguments coming forward are strong and reasonable.
If we get into parliamentary ping-pong, which we might...
No, we won't. No, you can't on statutory instruments. You can't do that.
Okay.
No, what you can do...
That's the point.
No.
It's a killing motion.
No, it's not.
It's a fatal motion.
No, I'm sorry, it isn't.
Well,
it was made very clear
it
by
can't be bounced back to the House of Commons, so effectively it is.
No, it is not a fatal motion, according to our clerks, who know everything there is to know about procedure in these places.
I thought the House of Lords knew everything there was to know, as far as the House of Commons was concerned.
The clerks know everything there was to know. What we've done is to keep the statutory instrument alive, to allow the Chancellor of the Exchequer to think again and to amend that in his own time if he chooses to do that. And my proposition is that what we are wanting is the Chancellor to listen to the House of Commons, the elected House, on Thursday, now that Conservative backbenchers, former Cabinet Ministers who signed up to this
You're assuming that.
No, just a sec, can I finish?
You're assuming that.
My sentence? I know it, that they have signed up to this motion for debate on Thursday, meaning there is no longer a Conservative majority on these issues. That is a matter...
I'm sorry, but that's absolute rubbish.
It is not rubbish.
It's voted through the House of Commons, so you can't say it hasn't. It has.
I know it has, when MPs didn't understand the consequences.
I've got to blow the whistle for full time. I've got to blow the whistle. There was a tour of World Cup rugby referees here in the Central Lobby a short time ago. I wish I had a whistle. As Baroness Meacher has just said, the next debate on this is in the Commons on Thursday on a motion proposed by Frank Field and a Rebel MP, Stephen McPartland, David Davis, Zach Goldsmith and others. So the next debate in Parliament on this is on Thursday. We've not heard the last of this.